Hi everyone, and welcome to the Virgo Sun, Moon, and Rising Spiritual Connection reading. Welcome! This is I Am Illuminated Tarot and meaning-based spiritual coaching services. I am Lauren, and welcome. So all of my content on this channel and on my website are here to teach you about and demonstrate the power of using the Triad of Engagement, which uses the three basic principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation to show you how when you apply these very simple principles together, that they can keep you fully engaged and in flow with the unique energetic imprint of your life. Additionally, all content is here to help you answer your very own I am question so that you can re-engage with life in a more authentic, meaningful, and emotionally fulfilling way. If you'd like to learn more about the Triad of Engagement, you can click on the links in the description box below. There are two videos, one of which is more for visual learners and one is more for conceptual learners. And there I'll talk about how using the Triad of Engagement can liberate you from the feelings of frustration and anxiety, fear, and disconnection, and reconnect you with the feelings of meaning and purpose and place and passion. All right, my lovely Virgos, let's get right into your reading. So this reading is spiritual connection reading, which means I'm going to be taking a look at yourself, your unique internal spiritual self, and your engagement with the external environment. Now, it is my belief that we are all meant to engage with our external environment to help unlock our own unique abilities, passions, hopes, dreams, gifts, so that we can live those into our external environment to fulfill our destined purpose. But we also have an element of free will, so we can hide from engaging with our external world or have an unhealthy relationship with it to where we never get a chance to actually unlock the best of what we have to offer to fulfill a role that's needed to be of service to the greater collective human experience. So let's start with taking a look right now, Virgo, as to what energy you are personally sitting with. We have Six of Wands. That actually just came out for Cancer, I believe. Six of Wands talks about success. This is the card of kind of the hero coming home to everybody celebrating him. It's a card of having some type of recognition for taking action from a place of passion. And now I'm going to pull a card to see what your external environment is asking for you. Why they want you to engage right now. What is it going to teach and unlock for you? So we have Temperance. Temperance is the major arcana card. It's the number 14 in the tarot. And it really talks about being able to temper two parts, two things that don't seem, so for instance in this cup it's almost like tempering fire and water, or two elements that don't quite go together, but being able to bring them together to create something new. There's an element of transmutation, but there's also the element of balance. Of when you think of what temperance means, that means being temperate. It means there are no extremes. This card for me personally signifies divine change, divine orchestrated change, but in a way that is pushing you to bring two components into balance in your life, but from a place of something in your outside world is creating that, is pushing you to do so. So an example of this, temperance is a hard one to kind of get across to people. It's a hard one for me, obviously. I'm having difficulty even explaining it outwardly, but it's one of those things where it's almost like, you know, we have the Tower card in the tarot, which is more of like a true divine intervention. That's where it's like lightning strikes and your house is going to catch on fire and burn to the ground because you've been sitting too long with the idea of moving and not doing it. Temperance is more about understanding that you're working with something currently, but maybe you're going too far in one side. And so it's about bringing it back and utilizing another area to kind of water that down so that it now is creating what you're meant to create, what your destiny is calling you to create with that. I hope that makes sense. So kind of what I'm seeing here, the connection between these two is that you've achieved some type of recognition currently for taking action from a place of passion. But now you're being asked to take a look at perhaps where you've gone a little on the extreme. Maybe you're like, okay, great, yay, you've gone so far. But if you keep going in this direction, it's not going to fulfill the divine purpose of why you were originally asked or created to have wanted to take action from that place of passion. So perhaps you were given a passion at your, birth. You love to do something, or you have this interest in something, or you have this ability to, and you're working with it. But now you're taking it to a place that's a little too far. And so you're being asked to take it back a notch and to reevaluate what else you have to work with, to temper this a little bit, to bring it back to a place that is meant to fulfill this role out in the external world. So now I'm going to pull cards to see what is in your void. Now, you can learn more about the void if you click on the visual link to the Triad of Engagement in the description box below. But basically what the void is a barrier that we create between our internal unique selves and our external environment, that we create as, again, a protective barrier. So as we move from being a child and we move into adulthood, we are given chances to engage our internal, unique, authentic self with our external environment. Now, that doesn't always provide us with the response we're looking for. It can provide us with a negative response, a hurtful response, a failed response. And so we start to create this void, this layer of masking or digging a moat, whichever way you want to take a look at it, where we say, okay, well, we're not going to bring that part of ourselves back out again because the last time we didn't get a good response. And so we build this void out of fear, out of anxiety of, well, what if that happens again? And then eventually that void starts to fill up with things like frustration because you are not connecting your authentic self with your external environment. And so you start to feel frustrated. Well, how come nobody sees me like this? How come this job isn't presenting itself to me? And what's happened is that the void now has become so big, and your disconnection between you being able to connect your unique self with your external environment, there's this layer. It's now become like a thick mask where your external environment can't see you for who you are because they can't get through your mask of defenses of the fear, the anxiety, the frustration. And you yourself have not been practicing utilizing yourself in the external environment. And so you are now equally as frustrated because you are not working in your ideal job. You are not in your ideal relationship. You, at its very worst, this can get to the point where you no longer see your purpose. You don't even understand what you like to do. This is where we can realize we have no hobbies, realize we don't know what makes us feel good. And so what the Triad of Engagement is here to do is to help show you how to bridge that void that we create for ourselves. That's a little too much. I'm going to see if we can get just one or two cards. Not a stack, but the card that did come up face up was the Emperor. So we'll see if he decides to make an entrance again. Let's go with this. Okay. Alrighty, my Virgos. So what I'm seeing here. So this is your void. This is showing me the story right now of what is kind of happening in your world, where your fears are coming from. So the first card here is generally a card of, this is the first layer of your masking. This is where you first tried to bring yourself out into the world, and it was like, whoa, like, nope, something negative happened around that. Now the Ace of Swords is truth. It's your truth. It's also a card of clarity. So it's being able to see the truth. And there's a part of me that thinks and just seeing. So we have the Ace of Swords, Three of Pentacles, the World, Queen of Pentacles, and the Tower. That there is something around this that you tried to share your truth. You tried to come out and you tried to get clarity, and perhaps this is when you first received clarity in some component to who you are. You got this clarity, you understood your truth, and you brought it out, and somehow it received a negative response. So this could be you realizing, halfway through your corporate career that you've always wanted to start a family. And so you start to go out into the dating world, and you're hoping to get, a significant other so that you can start this family, but your responses to going out into the dating world don't come back positive, and you end up kind of like, well, maybe I should just refocus on my career. Or as a child, you realize something about yourself. This is my truth, and you go out and you share it, and it could be something like you are, gosh, it's so funny. I feel like children are always declaring their truth. I am, whatever it is. But maybe it was more important. Maybe it wasn't just like, I am Superman, and you're like, oh, great, sweetie, you're Superman. Maybe you were declaring a deep part of yourself. I am, an animal lover, and I want to protect all animals. But then somebody in your life came back and said, well, we don't have animals in this household, and you can't really make money from that anyways. And, why be a veterinarian when you can be a doctor? And so you sat there and you hid that part of yourself. You're like, oh, okay, well, I guess being a veterinarian is on a lower scale than being a doctor. Or, animal rescue doesn't have a place in my family. And so you hide it. So you had this moment of clarity, this moment of vision, this moment of, this is my truth. And somehow it got stepped on. And with the Three of Pentacles in the World, there's something here about, this is in direct relationship to something you wanted to build. There was something that you wanted to build that you had clarity on in the moment. And you're like, this could be even you starting a business where you're like, oh, I see it. I see what I want to express. I see what I want to build. I know my truth, and I'm going to start building it. And then something happened. Either you lost sight of originally what your original clarity was. This can be actually where we go to build a business, let's say, and we end up, because the Three of Pentacles can be working with other people. And this can be where other people then get in the mix and they muddle your somebody gets in there and says, oh, no, let's do it this way instead. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. And so you start to kind of like make compromises, which is what you need to do when you're working with others. But eventually you get further and further away from your own personal truth. And so this can even be, let's say, building a household together with somebody. So let's say you get married and you start having kids, but then, and that was your truth. You're like, I want to have a family. This is the love of my life. This is great. And then you start to realize, okay, it's just one compromise after another, but the compromises end up taking you further and further away from what part of that was your truth. So maybe part of that whole environment was you living in a specific type of setting, but then you had to compromise on that. Maybe your partner didn't want the 4-bedroom house in the traditional neighborhood like you did. Maybe they just want to have a smaller condo so that you can save money to go travel. And so you, okay, fine, that's, traveling's fun, I guess. And then you always thought you were going to have 4 kids, but in reality, we only have space really for 2 kids because we're living in a 2-bedroom condo. Okay, well, that's fine too. Okay, well then, all right. And you just kind of go down this line of like compromise until you've lost sight of your original vision, until you realize you wake up one day and you're like, oh my gosh, this is not what I am. This is when you realize you wake up and you're no longer emotionally connected to something. And that's the tower moment that's coming in here. That you've been building something that was never your original intention to build. You had your truth, you saw it, you had clarity, you started to build, and another's vision got in the way. You've allowed other people to compromise what you were doing. So I think right now what I'm sensing here is that the feeling that you're getting from success is that there's almost this element of you feeling success, but feeling like it's misplaced. Almost like, yay, I'm getting recognition, but this isn't even my vision. Like, yeah, I took action and I did something, but it's almost like the hero coming home who knows somehow that somebody else was the hero. Or that it's not even taking credit for somebody else's work, it's just more that, or coming home and being celebrated for something you didn't even intend to do. Like you just happened to be there when this heroic act took place, and then you come back and you're being celebrated for it, and it's like, but that's not even that. Okay, great. And so now you're being faced with this element of the world, and the world is a wrap up. It's an ending. It's basically the universe saying, okay, you've learned your lesson. You've gone through this cycle. You've learned all that you can. And now you get to take those lessons forward, but it's time to let this cycle go. And so there's this component of where you're sitting here, and the Queen of Pentacles denotes knowing what to nurture in your physical environment, to what you want to grow, but knowing where to dedicate your resources. Because the Queen of Pentacles, she will have her one pentacle, and she is nurturing that pentacle. She's fully focused on that pentacle. She's putting her time and effort and the tangible towards this pentacle. And what I'm seeing here is that there's this element of fear. This element of fear and realization and anxiety around realizing that something that you had started based on truth got muddled. It was being built, but not built to what supported your truth. And that now you're seeing the end of this cycle, and you're being asked to step into this kind of Queen of Pentacles of like, okay, well, what do you want to nurture now? And that's making you realize how much that's your tower moment. This is kind of an internal moment of the universe showing you what needs to come down, showing you what's been built that wasn't ever part of your original plan, wasn't part of what you were needing to build. And this is where your blockage lies. This is where your block comes into play, where you don't want to face the tower. You don't want to have to realize that you're going to have to walk away from that business partner, or walk away from a living environment, or walk away from a job perhaps that you thought at the time when you took this job, it was like, this is the job I always wanted. And in reality, you're like, wait a second, this isn't, maybe you were given more tasks, and then maybe the role changed a little bit. And then maybe somebody was let go, and so you took on their job. And now all of a sudden you look back and go, but wait a second, I signed up to be this. I was supposed to be the editor of the paper, but now I'm just now all of a sudden I seem like I'm like in marketing. Like, wait a second, I was supposed to be reading and editing, and somehow I'm marketing now. And everybody's like, well, yeah, but it's a much better role, and you get more visibility, and yada, yada, yada. And you're like, but that's not what I want to put my energy towards. And now you're being faced with that opportunity of, okay, well, do I walk away from this job? This job that I know I doesn't support my truth? Do I walk away from this business? Do I change it? Do I walk away from my partners? Do I walk away from a significant other? Or do I simply express the need to make a change, to realize, okay, this cycle's come to an end. I have the fresh slate to be able to do something new with what I've already learned. But I have to face the fear of knowing that I have a truth that is being held back, that I've been holding myself back from wanting to realize in my physical world. A truth that's actually being asked to be brought out now, but that might have to mean me revealing to everybody here who's celebrating me that this isn't what you guys, I'm sorry, I'm not the hero you thought I was. I, just happened to be standing next to the whatever when it saved, the water just receded naturally. I didn't stop the flood. And that's scary. Now, oftentimes what will happen is when we're afraid to admit this to ourselves and make this change, and to maybe even verbally admit this out loud, or even emotionally admit it to ourselves on a, internal level, that oftentimes most of these people who are celebrating him would be like, well, yeah, we all knew that. We all knew that you were just there, but you were there. You were the one that was trying to get the water to recede. It might have just happened naturally, and we know you didn't actually put anything in place to happen, but you at least were the one who brought it to our awareness and took action towards it. And that's where we can, get stuck in a place of fear of wanting to actually speak our truth. When we know we need to, or being called to do so, and we get held back by these negative thoughts of, well, the last time I did this, I showed my true self, people didn't take it so well. Well, now it's having faith. It's having faith that you're being asked now. There's this divine element of an intervention that's saying, it's time to get back in touch with your truth. But it's time now to see your truth in a slightly different way, so that when you share it, you're actually also at the same time bringing forward a solution. And that's kind of what I see tied up with temperance, is that there's this element of this divinity of tempering something, because you're meant to bring in another aspect of yourself that will create a solution that perhaps you weren't able to see previously. And so right now you might be sitting with this like, oh my gosh, I have to walk away from a relationship. Do I have to get divorced from my partner because I don't love where we live anymore? And, what's going to happen to the children? And in reality, what this is saying is might not have to be that drastic. You're making it that drastic. This is your seed of the void of the negative thought patterns. Maybe in you expressing your truth, maybe your partner will say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you felt like you were compromising when you said yes to that. I didn't realize that when I took up a hobby and it took me out of the house and away from you and the kids for X amount of time, that was stressful to you and not allowing you to pursue your version of the truth. Or I didn't realize that you didn't like to travel as much as me, and that you would prefer to put that money into a 4-bedroom house in a neighborhood with, backyard. And that in you expressing that might be just enough for that person to say, well, what do you want? And where can we now work more towards getting you to a place that you can nurture what you want? Whether this is the realization that you've been a stay-at-home parent and now want to go back out into the work world and, take something you've gotten recognition for, but bring another part of yourself out. Bring this truth that you've had covered up, that you've been fearful of, bring this into play with that. So this could be that maybe you have been a stay-at-home parent, but there's this truth that you really do want to go out and work with, actually have a job in the external world. But maybe now you have this ability to, maybe others see you as this really successful parent. You are the one who has built this, people watch you on Instagram and social media and they're like, oh my gosh, they're always like doing all these fun things. They travel with their kids. I have such a difficulty traveling with my kids and I don't even know how I would ever do this. And in reality, what was maybe something you were being celebrated for that didn't feel authentic to you, where you're like, well, I don't really like traveling with my kids. I never wanted to do that. It was my partner who wanted to do that. But you've had some recognition for it. And so it's like, okay, well, take that, because that is part of your life experience. Take that, but now build your truth into that. And the truth that the truth is that you've always wanted to build your own business. And maybe this truth, again, got muddled here. But now you have a chance to bring part of this in with this, and you can say, oh, hey, well, actually, I've kind of gotten this following of people who really seem to be interested in how I work with how I get to travel with my children and how I maintain this kind of lifestyle. And now I can utilize my truth of being able to, really have this kind of clear, successful business model. I can work with people to help those who really want to get to that place with their kids, to have more of an adventurous lifestyle. I can help get them there by building a business model around my social media platform. Or it's something where maybe this could be, something maybe even on the darker side, like you've overcome something. Like you overcame an illness, or you overcame depression, or you overcame a hardship in your life. And now you can utilize that along with this additional truth. And be able to face the tower, to be able to be honest enough to come out and say, yeah, I did survive cancer, but it wasn't as easy as I made it look. And this is where you get to share your truth and say, yeah, I survived cancer, but it actually hindered me from doing all of these other things. The truth and the clarity of it is, I always wanted to do this, and with cancer I couldn't. But sometimes in just sharing that, that's enough to show you now why you're meant to bring this truth out now, and to not let others influence the sharing of your truth, and to really tap into what you want to nurture, because the combination of your current experience and whatever you've been praised for and have received some type of recognition for, combined with this truth you're desperate to share, is going to unlock something necessary, something that's meant to be of service in your external environment right now. So now I'm going to pull cards for the Triad of Engagement down here. And this is going to help kind of be a little bit of a roadmap as to how to build the bridge across this void of fear and anxiety, and show you kind of, through curiosity, courage, and contemplation, how you can best navigate this. So I'm going to pull a card here for curiosity. And curiosity is the bridge that can be built over fear and anxiety and frustration by simply just tapping into optimism, openness, and receptivity. So we start to open ourselves back up again to the unknown, to change, to the external environment where, yes, we can possibly be hurt. But we can choose, if we tap into the best parts of curiosity, which are optimism and receptivity, that we can open ourselves back up to possibilities instead of closing ourselves off. And just as I say that, ironically enough, out comes adjacent possibilities. So I think as your point of curiosity, so aptly described here, is that it's time to open yourself back up again, to open yourself back up to what this truth that at one point you had expressed but then had gotten muddled in what was realized in the tangible world for you, that this cycle has ended. So now you're being asked to bring forward this truth again, to see help it basically to see the doors that it will open now for you. It might not have opened the right doors in the past, but it's going to actually work to opening the doors now. And so what you're asked to being curious with is basically to avoid all this fear and this, I don't know, I don't want to face a tower moment where I have to walk away from something or admit something to myself that needs to be released. Instead, be curious. Okay, I've gained recognition for something. How can I utilize that in conjunction with my truth now, as I am? How can I blend these two together to see possibilities that were not open to me before and that I've closed myself off from? What can I do by combining these two? I'm going to be curious. So you build that bridge. And then we move into, right off the bat, 2 cards for courage. So courage it's not enough to just simply build the bridge of curiosity. You can't just, this is where we can get into that point of almost like detachment through fantasizing. Where you're like, well, what if I did do this? And what if I changed this up? And but you're playing the what if game, but you're not taking any action towards it. And what the external environment is always calling us to do is to take action. We're meant to be engaged. And engaged is it's an action. You don't stay engaged by staying still. Because the world's going to keep going. The external environment's going to keep moving. And if you stay still, eventually that gear is going to be stripped. And either life is going to go on without you, and you're going to be totally disengaged, or you're going to constantly feel at odds. You're going to feel every time the wheel of the gear of your external environment moves and you don't, it's going to be painful, painful, and painful. And that's what the tower is. We're not meant to live like that. We're meant to live in flow. We're meant to feel fully engaged, but in a positive way, not in a painful way. So courage is where we get a chance to tap into our free will. This is where we get a chance to take action, to make decisions and take action from a place of self-awareness, to then walk across the bridge to engage with our external environment. We get to actually experience the true wonder and awe of of what happens when we optimistically play the what if game. So we have 2 cards, and I love these too. Oh my gosh, Virgo. We have surrender to success. It says you are ready to experience abundance. Don't look back at previous roadblocks or difficulties. Leap into an exciting new world of possibilities. And then we have surrender your fear of change. The universe is reminding you that you are cared for always, whether you're afraid of a change in your job, your health, or a relationship, or if you fear aging or death. Repeat the affirmation, I have faith that all is well. My goodness, this couldn't be more of what sums this all up. There is something that you're being called right now that's going to be a combination of a truth that you've left, that you've been too afraid to, a truth and a clarity that you've been too afraid to tap into, and being recognized for something that in combination is going to allow you to really have some type of success on the other side. But your fear of change is what is holding you back. You know something is going to have to change. Whether that's your environment, whether that's the significant other you're with, whether that's even just how you present yourself to the world, that maybe you're the person that's always given in to everybody else, and now you're going to be the one taking the stand and taking the reins by your hand and putting your time and energy towards what you want to put your time and energy towards. And yeah, that's going to create a disruption. But it's a disruption that's going to lead to some type of success. And it's a disruption that with temperance is showing you it doesn't have to be this all or nothing. It can be this beautiful divine evening out of taking these 2 sides to yourself and being able to combine them in a positive way that will bring you success and open doors that I think at this point you don't even know what they are, because you haven't even really admitted to yourself that you want to bring this part of yourself back out. Once you do, you can take this recognition and perhaps this guilt you've been feeling about being recognized for something that you don't feel worthy of, to actually realize, no, you are worthy of that. You have achieved something here. You are worthy of this recognition, but now you get to utilize it with your truth. And yeah, change is scary, right? That's why we avoid interacting with our external environment, because change is scary. But this is telling you, the universe is reminding you that you are cared for always. And that this is what destiny is calling. Destiny is saying, please come out right now. Because if you take this leap and you express this truth and you admit to yourself that you are deserving of this recognition, it's going to allow you that change, the change that's coming in is going to allow for you to take advantage of these new possibilities, these new opportunities coming in for you. And then for contemplation. So contemplation is our ticket back across the bridge. This is when we have now taken courageous action. We've walked across the bridge into engagement with our external world. And now we get to walk back across the bridge using contemplation. And this is where we reflect and we integrate. It's where we self-educate. We can say, okay, I interacted with my external environment, and this is what happened. This is where we learn. This is where we get to see the consequences of our actions, and we get to bring it back. And we continue then to utilize with what happened here, learning through direct experience with our external environment. We get to see, okay, now how can I bring more of myself into alignment? What didn't work and what did? And now how do I get a chance to change myself, to grow within myself, to be able to continue to expand and engage in a healthy way in my external environment? And so contemplation is leap. You go first. The universe will catch you. Oh my gosh, this is like such a positive reading. It seems so scary up here with the tower, I think, and with, kind of the word, like there's this ending and everything, but there's this component of success coming through. Obviously we have surrender to success here, but there's this element of tapping back into clarity and success and owning recognition for something that you should be proud of, and being able to tie all of that together to make a change that's been needed to really get you to come out. And Virgos, you are the healers of the zodiac. You have a really special superpower and a place to fill in the greater connection of the human experience, that you are meant to be a healer. And that doesn't mean that you have to be in a healing profession. No, you don't have to be a life coach or a doctor or a massage therapist. What that means is that you get to be aware of your ability just in being who you are, that you are a healer. That in just you providing a listening ear and just you sharing your experience or your truth, that alone can be enough of a healing expression for others. You actually, as a Virgo, you're ruled by the sign of Mercury, which is the ruling planet of communication. And so you actually have the superpower to be able to heal through communication. You can actually express in healing words, so to speak, but it doesn't have to be words. Expression can be, what you do with your body. Expression can be, you expressing a creative part of yourself. So you express through writing, you express through painting, you express through some physical medium. But there's this component of what you do can have a naturally healing element to it. And that can be bastardized at times. That can be used by others, and it can be bastardized even by yourself, where you think you're bringing a healing element, but you're going too far down the rabbit hole here. Where you've lost sight of your ability to work with this aspect of yourself. And what you're communicating is no longer healing. It's more, driving home, this is what it has to be. And you're not perfect if you don't accept this and heal this in yourself. Or you're not perfect if you don't accept this expression of mine. Because the other side to Virgo is the perfectionist, of holding yourself accountable to this high level of perfectionism, but also holding others to that. And that can actually be counterintuitive to you wanting to heal others, is that you can go out there and initiate this beautiful element of sharing your truth and expressing it and doing so in a way that will heal others and just hearing or seeing or experiencing your truth. But then you get to the point where either A, you become hypercritical and you don't want to share your truth anymore because you're so hypercritical. It's not perfect. It's not the expression of it isn't perfect. So I'm never gonna let somebody read this book because I have to re-edit it 40 times. Or I'm gonna, every time somebody looks at my painting, I'm gonna step in front of them and say, well, it's actually not finished yet, and I'm going to take away from their experience of just experiencing my work and the beauty that comes from it. Or we turn it into something even like more outward and projective, which we end up, if somebody doesn't like our work, or like what we're expressing, we become defensive and we want to push that on them. Well, you just don't know what's good for you. This is perfect, and I've worked so hard, and this is healing, and this is how you should eat, and this is what you should do, and I know because I'm a nutritionist, and this is, and instead of just realizing that everybody's different, and some people may accept this and some people may not, that it's, you have to just continue to express it from a place of purity, not trying to push it on anybody, and in turn not allowing others to compromise your viewpoint. So it's about really tapping into this place of personal confidence to understand what you want to nurture and the why behind it, and then be able to take the leap. I love this. You go first, the universe will catch you. And that's really when you come back to contemplate, what are you too afraid right now to take a leap into? And why? And when you start to test the waters of combining these two elements to yourself and bringing it out into the external world, really taking a look at, okay, I went out there and I took a leap and I shared my truth. Now what happened? What was the response I got? And now how can I build on that? What other what other stuff do I have in my arsenal of my own spiritual self can I start to unlock and work with and bring back out into the world? Because right now, I'm being asked to make a change. That's going to bring in success and possibilities, but it's going to involve me moving past my fear of sharing my truth and clarity. It's also me moving past my fear of actually feeling like I've earned the recognition for something I've done. And, okay, that came right. I'm going to actually continue. That was a little too much. Okay, so I'm going to pull some additional clarifying cards for your internal energy and for your external. So we have the 9 of Wands, and let's see, any other cards for your internal energy here. Oh, and the Fool, beautiful. I love this. So the 9 of Wands is basically the wounded warrior. It's almost, it's showing the person who's gone, it's basically showing the same person that's in this card here, but now he's gone into battle a few more times. Now he got this recognition and he's, okay, well, I got the recognition, I have to keep kind of going back out and going back out and going back out. Then he gets to this point of 9 of Wands where he's just exhausted. Like he has been through, 3 more battles since this, where maybe he felt like, okay, I'm getting recognition, this is great. And then you go back out and then you just end up getting to this point where you're like, oh, I just can't do it anymore. Like I'm exhausted. I can't take another knock. I can't take another battle. I can't take taking one more step, even though you're one step away from completing your cycle. And it just feels like a lot. And then you have the Fool, which is the card, it's actually the number 0. It's the concept of 0 in the tarot, which is the ultimate taking a leap, of just releasing everything that's been. Instead of sitting here and saying, okay, well, if I what I'm feeling here is that this is kind of like that feeling of if I get recognition, or I assume and say, okay, actually I am proud of what I've accomplished here. That if I do that and I admit that to myself, then I might have to continue on doing it And maybe you don't want to. And what this is saying is you don't have to. You can recognize you can take the recognition and say, good job. Yeah, I have done something and I have earned that recognition, but it doesn't mean that I have to keep on that path. It does mean that I can combine these two and jump into the energy of the Fool. And to know the difference, to know what makes me feel like, ugh, it's just a slog. And to know what freedom feels like to take the leap into something new, to make a change. Because if I don't, and I take recognition and I keep staying in this place, I'm going to feel like the Nine of Wands eventually. I'm going to feel like I'm just going out there and being thrown to the wolves, instead of releasing and realizing, no, I got to let the tower fall. I got to embrace the new, and it can feel this freeing. It can feel like everything is, basically the Fool is all possibilities lie before you. And that's the beauty. It's like, it's the reset button. It's the zero field, is 0 point field. It's where everything and nothing exists together at the same time. And it's the reset. And so it's almost like here the Fool is coming in to release this guy, to say, pick your head up. You don't have to keep climbing this mountain anymore. Like, come dance with me. I'm going to come and save you. And then for Temperance, let's see if we can gain some clarity. Oh, Page of Swords, wonderful. Let's see if anything else comes out. And, oh, lovely. Yep, Wheel of Fortune and 8 of Cups. So Page of Swords is going out there and working with your truth, but from kind of an innocent, childlike perspective of you're just starting to realize your truth, but you're not quite, like a child, not quite sure how to wield it yet. And so that's really what you're being asked to do, is to go out there and start to wield your truth again. Start to practice with it. This can actually be a card of gaining information. See, it's a seeking knowledge. And what that's going to do as you work with that out in the external environment is it's going to get the Wheel of Fortune turning, get you back engaged and feeling in flow. Okay, life is turning and I'm turning with it. I'm not here letting the cogs hurt me every time they turn. I'm actually, for the first time, engaging with it as myself. And then we have the 8 of Cups, which is walking away. And it's going to show you what hasn't been emotionally fulfilling. It's going to actually be able to, as you're doing this, for you to realize that's what I need to walk away from. Because even though this looks abundant to others, it's not emotionally fulfilling to me. So what do I really want? And in gaining more context, this is also a card of gaining context. Going out, utilizing your truth and gaining context for it. What is the place of this truth now? If I start to bring this out and work with it, what is the context? How can it be useful in the external environment? How can it start to get the Wheel of Fortune turning, in my favor? And what is it going to show for me that I have to walk away from? What's the actual change that I know has to take place? And then to surrender to it, because if something's not fulfilling, well, then why not walk away from it? It's not fulfilling for a reason. In the 8 of Cups, it's about you walking away with your cup, knowing that there is a wish fulfillment for you that will satisfy you on an emotional level, but you have to be willing to walk away from even what others, and this is really weird, not letting others influence you. Really looking at what might seem like other people will look at what you have and say, well, that should be super emotionally fulfilling. Like, what do you mean? You're going to walk away from that? You're crazy. You're going to walk away from a life where you get to travel all the time with your husband and children, or you're walking away from this amazing like corporate job where you've worked your way all the way up to the top and you get all these awesome perks, and you're going to just walk away from that? Well, yeah, because for you, it doesn't mean anything. If you don't have emotional connection to it, well, something else out there is meant for you to have emotional connection with and to. And so this is about tapping back into the clarity of self and understanding where that emotional fulfillment lies and being ready to go on the journey to find it. And if that means changing your environment, then so be it. Lovely reading, Virgo. This is a strangely positive reading that I feel like there's so much fear and anxiety, but also so much freshness coming through. There's like so much fresh, positive energy. It's like you just have to make this one last push of saying, it's okay, it's time for me to share my truth. And that change I'm fearing is the very change that's going to lead to my success. The universe wants me to leap, and there are possibilities that I have been closed off to that this is going to open the door to again. It's going to help you feel in flow. And you're going to see exactly what you need to do with this truth. All right, Virgo, I hope this has been helpful. It's been a fun reading. I've enjoyed this one. Not that I don't enjoy all of them, but I really am feeling this for you guys. So I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I hope you join me again for your next reading. If you'd like to if you'd like to book a one-on-one spiritual coaching session or a personal reading, the link to my website is in the description box below. Bye, Virgos.